Good afternoon. Welcome to Who's Tom and Dick? With your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody.
We're back again.
Yeah.
Friday seems to come around every week so quickly.
I know. It didn't before we done these podcasts, but now we're doing the podcast. They come around quicker.
What did you do for your birthday then, Martin?
My birthday was going to be a surprise, but what my wife has done, she's now told me to book up a holiday in the Peak District. So she was going to book it.
Yep.
But she didn't have time.
Right. So you're booking.
So now I've booked my surprise birthday to the Peak District.
Oh, brilliant. So you haven't been yet. When are you going?
In this week.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
This week.
What, for a week?
Yeah. Actually, more than a week. We go from the Saturday.
Yeah.
Because my daughter has taken me to the Belfry. And then we go to Sunday to the Peak District from then until next Sunday.
Brilliant. Did you actually do anything on your birthday then?
No, didn't do anything because I don't think I'd bother nowadays. The last time I did anything was when I was 60. I had a huge big one in a big party in Benidorm with a load of entertainers and people and friends we met on the site and that. And I should really celebrate every single birthday now because it's good that I've come through what I have and I'm celebrating really, aren't I?
Yeah. So that was 60 when you had a huge big one last, was it?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
What about you? What have you been doing this week?
I haven't been doing anything exciting apart from yesterday, if you call this exciting. I had my annual checkup with the nurse for my heart disease, which was quite interesting. First thing she done was weighed me, then told me I was 5'7". Then she asked me to take my socks and shoes off, had a look at my feet, tested that I had a pulse. I did in the left foot, but she couldn't find one in the right. I don't know what that means.
Really?
Yeah. Then she said, well, your feet look healthy. There's no swollen ankles.
So why is she checking you, that you've gone in for a heart check?
Yeah.
And she's checking your feet. So what's the...
Well, she's looking for swollen ankles. Heart disease, retention of water is quite a thing, and it shows her up around the ankles. She's also looking at the colour of the feet because obviously the heart is pumping blood around your body, and the hardest place to pump it is down to your feet and back again. So she's looking for those to look normal and not too pale.
Thinking about it, they actually do look at my feet.
Yeah.
Even for my cancer, and it's for exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But I get tested and I have tablets for gout.
Okay.
Do you have tablets for gout?
No.
So it's not a common cause of it then?
No, she's never mentioned that. But the other thing she said yesterday, which I hadn't heard before, she said, oh, you've got nice hair growth on your toes. That's healthy. I wish I could have it on my head, but it's growing on my toes, out my ears and out my nose as well. But
well, you
not
can always
on my
stand
head.
upside down.
Well, I suppose so, yeah. So she then took me blood pressure, which was fine. We then went through the meds to check that they'd been reviewed and everything was okay there. My cholesterol was fine, which was good news. So, yeah, she did say that I hadn't had a stress test done recently, since before COVID. So she suggested that I might go for a stress test just as a precautionary measure. But apart from that, a load of questions that I had to answer, do I get breathless? All that sort of thing. And
probably the same questions that you've been asked every time.
Every time, yeah. The other thing she asked us, do I ever have low moods? And I asked her why, and she said, well, a lot of people with heart disease and illnesses like this, live their life in a low mood.
Well, you spoke about that, didn't you, when all those people that you met?
Yeah, this is where we come into mental health, I think. People deal with illnesses in different ways. And, I've always been fairly positive. I've looked at everything lightheartedly, whether that's right or wrong. And funnily enough, since we've been doing these podcasts and I've been joining various forums, I've noticed that, people are more anxious. A lot of anxiety comes into it. And some people are visiting the medical room too often. You know, because every twinge they feel, they think is related to the heart. And of course it's not. We still get twinges in their chest from heartburn and other things.
But can these forums be at fault for that? Because people, like you've just said, are reading these things, then they're thinking, oh, I had that last night, and oh, I had that last week. Then they go to the doctor. So,
yeah, I think that's one of the problems with the forums. I mean, when you read these, you've got to take them with a pinch of salt. I mean, there's some good advice, but don't take anything literally.
No, don't take it as medical advice.
Definitely not. Everybody's made up in a different way. The best thing to do is just look at these forums and take part. And if you've got any worries, always refer back to your doctor. That's the number one advice. Didn't you have your MRI scan this week?
I did, yeah. So what day were you in hospital?
Tuesday.
I was in Monday.
Right.
And I had my MRI, which I go for these MRI scans just to see how the cancer has hopefully decreased. And I'd never realised what MRI stood for. And I looked it up, and it's magnetic resonance imaging. So for people who like facts and figures, because I know some people do like facts and figures and statistics and things like that. Well, I haven't got any statistics about it. But that's what it is, magnetic resonance imaging. And for those of you who don't realise what you do, it looks like a huge big donut.
Well, take us through the start of the thing. You arrive at the MRI scanner. What happens from then on?
So I check in, and they say, have you read the form? And I always say, yes, I have, and I haven't.
Right. Is that the disclaimer?
Yeah, because I read the form like a year and a half ago when I first had my first one. I know the procedure now.
And, but that could have changed the form, you realise. They could have added another couple of things.
But what they do, they go through the form with you when you get there.
Oh, right, okay.
So there's no point going through the form at home because you're going to go through it again.
Yeah.
So they ask me all the questions and all that, do I have asthma? Am I allergic to anything? All those things. And then I say no. Then they say, we're going to give you an injection. Well, when I was in hospital for the 2 months with the pneumonia, I had a cannula in my arm all the time. So what the cannula does, they put a dye in my body so they could see that when they get the imaging better. And it makes you go funny in your throat. It tastes as if you've got lots of iron in your throat. You get the iron taste in the mouth, but the other one is you actually feel as if you've wet yourself.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it really is. You get a warm feeling around your regions down there, and this is what they talk about before the scan. That have you had this before? And you are aware. Yes, thank you. So I'm lucky that I've had several of them. Really, the last one showed that the cancer had grown slightly, but then I'd been off cancer tablets for a long while because of all the hospital. I nearly said holiday then. All the hospital visits, not the pneumonia one, but I was in hospital several times for a couple of weeks before that. And the thing is, every time you go in there, they take you off the cancer treatment.
Right. You say the last time you went, the cancer had grown slightly. Do you know the size of your cancer? Do they give that to you in millimetres, or is there a size chart or anything?
Yeah, there's not a chart, but there is. You get the screenshot of your lung, basically, because this is what MRI is showing. I could go for a normal X-ray and they could show my lung, but this MRI shows all the things inside your body, and I have to have the abdominal as well.
Yeah.
So it's right from the top of my shoulder all the way down to my pelvis. The scan, just in case any cancer has spread into those regions, which, touch wood, so far it hasn't.
Okay, yeah.
But they can, yes, in your answer to your first question, they can measure it. And so what he does, it's basic that he's got the scale on the screen, so he can bring it up to normal scale on the screen, and then he just gets a ruler and measures it.
Oh, right.
And it was about 5 mil the last time. But bearing in mind the time before that, it had reduced by about 10 mil.
Right.
So it went back when I was having the chemotherapy last Christmas, and this was normal chemotherapy where my hair fell out, and every single hair of my body fell out. And so the normal chemotherapy, it shrunk it right back.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was ill just after Christmas. and then the pneumonia. So I wasn't on anything. And then they've now given me this fantastic new cancer tablet, which I mentioned in one of the earlier podcasts. And I'm only the second person, I don't know if it's in this region or the country, to actually try this tablet, but he was anxious for me to try it. So I wanted to try it for him. And so I will know Monday week when I get back from my holiday what my results will be, whether it's shrunk at all.
So this result is basically since you've been on this new tablet?
Yes, it is. And I haven't really been on the new tablet long, because if you remember, I was in and out of hospital, and then they found I had that stomach complaint, that stomach bug they had to give me antibiotics for. So that's going to be interesting to see how quick this tablet's worked on my lung.
Yeah, didn't you say once though that once you have a cancer drug on the NHS, if they change you to another one, you can't go back to the other one?
Correct. Yeah.
So you only get one stab at that drug.
You get several stabs, because this is my second stab at this one. I had the full volume of the tablet at 100%. They said it made me have diarrhea, but that's now may not be proven, because I had the C. diff, which gave me the diarrhea. So I don't know whether he's allowed to actually go back on the same drug to a higher dose, but he can't actually go back to another tablet or medicine once you've gone off it. That's because I've had tablets, 2 lots of tablets, which now I can't go back to, because the first ones started to do things to me, but the trouble was my heart rate slowed down. And,
right.
He said, I don't want you to have a heart attack.
No. That seems a bit poor, though, that they've asked you to try this new cancer drug. And if they find that that's not working so well, then they can't put you back on one that was working for you, because, they've asked you to go on this drug to try it out, to be a guinea pig, so to speak. So surely you could revert back to something that's better for you if you find this isn't doing the job.
It was only the normal chemotherapy that was working for me. Oh. So I won't go back on those other 2, because the second tablet that I had made my liver go funny. And right. So it seems that on my body, I'm always allergic to something. And one of the other times I was in hospital, it was when they was giving me tablets, that then gave me diarrhea.
Right.
So
I'm sure that other patients are probably in a similar sort of position. It just seems bad for you because you keep getting these reactions. And I'm sure, when you read some of these forums, the reactions others are getting are equally as bad.
Yeah, but there's one thing I would urge any person who's going through cancer treatment like I am and has got long-term diarrhea. Don't think it's just the tablets that you're on. Ask for other tests to be done, because it wasn't until one of the nurses said, I think we ought to take a sample, that they actually found that I'd got this C. diff. Right. Now, once I got the C. diff, it was a tablet. The C. diff you get if you're on antibiotics too long.
Right.
I was obviously on antibiotics for 2 months in hospital with pneumonia, give or take a few days. And so that's obviously how I caught that. But I don't know how it wasn't picked up when I came out that I was on it and I'd got diarrhea. But it really, really did knock me for six for about 5 weeks. I just couldn't go out anywhere. No, and that's why when a few weeks ago when we found out about these, or we spoke about these incontinent pants, I had to wear them in bed because you just had no control whatsoever. What I was actually trying to make a point out was to any cancer sufferer, just ask your doctor, have I got C. diff? I know a friend who's had this and it wasn't picked up straight away because it could be a thing that could be happening to you, just like it happened to me.
So that's something really to look out for. The other thing I spoke to you on the phone about was a dietitian. See a dietitian because one of the things that my doctor said is as you get older, your gut doesn't digest food quite so well, and there's such things as irritable bowel syndrome, which a lot of people suffer from, and I suffer from that a little bit. And I noticed once I was told to cut out brown bread because I've got GERD, which is acid reflux, and the dietitian asked me to cut out the brown bread for a little while, and ever since I've done that, I've been a lot better.
Did you eat a lot of it then?
Yeah, because that's meant to be good for you, you see.
Yeah.
So I changed from white to brown, and now I'm back to white, and I feel a lot better for it. So, some of these things that you're eating too can have a major effect on your digestive system. So it's not just the tablets.
I have this with what I have. There's certain things I can eat, but there's certain things that my dietitian has told me to make sure that I eat. But the most annoying thing that they're all telling me to do is to put on weight. I don't want to put on weight. I was quite happy at, what I was, but it's happened. And the steroids help make you put it on as well, because I'm on a fair amount of steroids per day. So I'm going to try and get a happy medium with my weight. I don't want to be, there must be a point when you've got to stop. So I'm talking to my doctor about that next week.
Yeah, well, there's a ideal weight, obviously, for your size and age.
Yeah.
As long as you stick to that to a certain extent. I mean, they said to me, if you can have a little bit of extra weight on, that's not a bad thing, because if you do get ill, then you've got something to fight it with.
Yeah, well, this is what they want for me.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
So it's not a bad thing.
Well, if my scan shows that the tablet's eating away at my cancer, then it's fine. I'll put more weight on.
Yeah. You just won't look so good in Speedos.
No, that's right.
Anyway, you wanted to talk about something today, didn't you? I think. What was that you were?
I wanted to talk about dementia.
Yeah.
Mainly because my father-in-law. My first experience with my father-in-law was when I went to pick him up to have a meal around ours, and he said, "Is it okay if I leave my friend around my house?" And I said, "What friend?" He said, "I've got a bloke staying with me." And I thought, there's no bloke around your house. And so I said, "Who is this man?" So he said, "He's a friend from mine from the club that I go to." So I went back with him. I said, you can't just leave a stranger in your house.
No.
And anyway, I said, "Go and show me where he is." He walked upstairs to the bedroom, and there was a mirror there. And he went and pointed at the mirror and said, "There he is." I instantly went cold. And I've got goosebumps just talking about it now. And it was really eerie that he told me about this. And I looked it up, and it's called mirrored self misidentification.
All right.
That's what happens. And sometimes the person sees themselves as a younger person as well, or they see themselves as somebody else. And of course, there is a difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. Dementia is a condition where problems with the memory and other types of thinking make it hard for a person to do everyday activities for themselves. And it can be caused by several diseases that affect the brain. So, and Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia.
That's funny, because I was talking to a nurse in a nursing home once, and we were standing outside this lift, and these doors open. There was this elderly gentleman sitting in a wheelchair, and the door was closed. And I carried on talking to the nurse, and this happened 2 or 3 times. And I said, "Does that chap want to hand out the lift? Shall I?" No, she said, "He's got dementia." And I said, "Oh, right. So why is he in the lift?" And she said, "Well, he used to live in a block of flats, and he used to count how many times the doors opened. And he said once they had opened to 12 or whatever the number might have been, he'd come out. And sure enough, the next time the doors opened, out he came."
Wow.
They said, we have to respect that, as part of his daily life, which I found amazing, really. So I guess it really takes different forms.
Well, it does, because, Alzheimer's disease actually starts in the brain many years before symptoms actually start to show. So right. You may not know you've got it.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of people might think that, someone is not right, but they could have the start of this horrible, horrible disease. So, and which, talking of that, very, very nicely, some people have written into the Facebook page, because if you're new to the show, we've got a Facebook page and we've got a website, and we often ask people to write in with their experiences, what they've gone through. And Stephen wrote in, and he lost his nan, and he's lost his wife has lost her nan as well. So Stephen has actually he wanted to do something about it. So he's written a football quiz book, and it's called Football for Brains. Donations from the sale of this book goes to the Scores Project, which is based at the UEA in Norwich.
All right.
And apparently it's been he was on Leslie Dolphin on Radio Suffolk.
Yeah.
So a little bit of plug for our local radio there. And the UEA, they look into the brain injuries, and they've recently been mentioned in the government papers to make sport safer.
Okay.
So, and if you want the book, anybody, the book's on eBay, and it's called Football for Brains.
Excellent.
So this is from Dave John. So his father's going through dementia at the moment, and David is lucky so far that his father still knows him, but he says there are signs that it won't last. And David goes to see him every 4 weeks, and he says it's lovely when he sees him pick up as he walks through the door. He says it's hard to take having the same conversation several times in a short time. I found that with my father-in-law. He repeated the same things over and over again. And also I noticed that if you asked him what he had for breakfast, he wouldn't remember. But if you said to him what happened in the war, he knew day for day what happened during the war.
Yeah.
And Dave says it's very difficult to watch as he's slowly losing his dad. And each visit is he makes as memorable as possible. And Paul has also joined in with the same, more or less the same words. This time, though, it's his mother. So Dave and Paul, we're very, very sorry there about your parents and all that. But the other letter I had on there was not from so much from someone who's going through that one, but she actually worked with people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
her name's Beverly. And she worked in dementia for several years. And she says it's hard for the families and for the person as well. That's what we've got to remember. It's not just the families. And she's had many families crying on her shoulder, and she liked to listen to them. And she tried to give her guidance and support as much as she could. And she had a cousin diagnosed at 50 years old. I mean, that's no age, is it? Which really made her cry. Because the cousin is only a year older than her. And unfortunately now he's registered blind. Beverly remembers the fun that she had as team leader, leading the music therapy sessions at the homes that she worked at, and looking at all the old photos with them as well, because the people like to look at the photos as well. And she especially loved doing the quizzes.
Yeah.
So, Louise Stegel, thank you very much, Louise, for getting in touch with us. But this time it's because she runs a dementia morning.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll explain where this is. It's, and I'll read it out. So it's the last Tuesday of every month in Hopton. I'll tell you the times first, about 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Louise also said she was a dementia nurse for 5 years and is very passionate about making a change and helping her, because she's lost her nan and her dad to this awful disease. And the last one is from a friend of mine called Paula, who I'll send my love to as well. And she lost her nan and her mum, bless her. And to watch a strong, independent woman become a shell of her former self is horrible, she said. Her mum lost all her independence, and basically she gave up on life. We send our love to Paula, because this is very, very sad, but we thank you for joining in with all these letters.
Yeah, thank you very much for those. Quite a complex subject to discuss in a few minutes.
Yeah,
really,
quite
isn't
heavy.
it?
Yeah,
but
I mean, we've only touched a tip of the iceberg.
yeah, progress is being made. That's a good thing. Moving on, you know what it is now, don't you? It's time for Martin's joke of the week. Did you like that intro?
Yeah, I did actually. So, I'm actually. I want it so we get a bigger sort of build up to it. Really.
Okay, let's try this then. It's time for Martin's joke of the week.
That's good. That's good. Well, last week.
Go on, get on with it.
We could have that cinema bloke. What's his name? Read someone.
Yeah.
It's time with a husky voice.
Do you reckon?
Yes.
Do you reckon that would go down well?
It might frighten a few people.
I don't know really. But
should we just do it? Well, last week I had a knock at my door. I got my Linny to answer it, and I said, "Who is it?" She said, "It's a bloke collecting for the local swimming pool." I said, "Well, give him a bucket of water." Wah, wah, wah. Are they getting better?
Interesting. Interesting. One thing we mustn't forget to mention this week is that we have a brand new spanking website.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so if you want to head over to the new website, there's lots of things on there from our blog where you can find details of various things that we've discussed. You can also leave a voice message or a voice interview, and we could include it on our podcast. And the recent blog we've added is on the defibrillators.
Oh, yes.
Did you find your defib, Mark?
Do you know what? As soon as I left the studio last week, I made it my mission to go out and find my defib. I have to write it down. Defibrillator. Well, it's called a defib, isn't it?
Yep.
So that's the easiest thing to say. So I actually did make it my point. And do you know what? I spoke to some people during the week,
Yep.
and they did exactly the same.
Excellent.
So that's good that they've listened to the podcast. And so basically, what we did, we on the Facebook page, we had a map of the country, didn't we, to find our defibs?
No.
Didn't we?
No. Where'd you get that from? You looking at the right Facebook page?
Well, where?
I
was on someone else's Facebook page.
No, what we did is we put a link to the website, which took you to a map where you punched in your postcode, and that brought up the nearest defibs to you.
Well, I knew I got on someone's page somewhere.
Yeah.
Because so that shows that works on our page, though, doesn't it?
So did you punch your postcode in to find them?
Yeah, I actually all I did was put my postcode in, and it came up to a huge map of my area, and I found my house on there, and I thought, oh, not one right near my house. So originally, if you remember, I thought my defib was in the post office.
Yeah.
Well, it's not in the post office, so it's a good job I didn't go down there if I had a heart attack. What I found out was there's a pub opposite, and it's opposite the pub.
That's handy.
So that's one, but there's two near me, and they're both equal distance.
Right.
So the other one, there's a little holiday park where people can go and take their camper vans.
Right.
And it's too close for me to take my camper van, of course. But you never know, one of these days I might.
Well, if you do need one, I'd be inclined to send Linny to the caravan park because she's more likely to go in the pub for a couple of drinks before she comes back.
She might do. Yeah. He knows my wife, you see.
Yeah. Well, in our blog on the website, which you can go to, www.whostomandick.com, on the blog, there is a link to this discussion. There's also a link to all those websites, so you can just click that link and go straight to it. Unfortunately, the websites are all in the UK. I did have some conversations with some guys in the US, and they haven't got anything like that. And in fact, they said to me, or a couple of guys said to me, the only defibs they know of are either in the police station or the fire station, but there's no public defibs anywhere.
So it just shows that we're ahead of them, doesn't it?
I think there's an opportunity there for someone in the USA to start a program to get defibs publicly placed.
I'll ask my friend Anthony Lopez. He might want a new job.
Yeah.
But, you always, I just can't believe that.
We do some things right.
Yes.
Next week, we've got quite an interesting subject you want to talk about, the air ambulance. Mm-hmm. And luckily enough, we've managed to interview a air ambulance pilot, Joshua Allison. Martin's put some questions to Joshua, and he's kindly answered those. So we'll be bringing those out in next week's podcast, which is very, very interesting. So anyway, that's about it, Martin, for this week.
Yeah, enjoyed that.
You make sure you take care.
Everybody.
Yes. And we'll be back next week.
Well, I'll be back after my holiday.
That's all right. You have a good time.
I will do, yeah.
And as we say, everybody take care. Have a great weekend.
And just be safe, everybody. That's the word. Be safe.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye. It's actually 2 words.
We're finished now, Martin. Bye, everybody.